At a time when the latest piece of legislation in this country is generating too much heat and controversy, I'm joined by the Minority Affairs Minister, Mr. Kiren Rijiju, also the Parliamentary Affairs Minister of the country. Mr. Rijiju, thank you very much for joining NDTV.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Mr. Rijiju, I must ask you one question, that a lot of aspects of this bill, like inclusion of non-Muslims in the boards that will govern the Waqf Act henceforth, are generating a lot of controversy. Could you not have avoided it?
There's no question of avoidance. It's a matter of correcting the historical mistakes which had happened in the past. If it was a management of religious institutions of the Muslims, then it is a very straightforward case that nobody should interfere into the internal matters of any religious sites, institutions or body. Suppose the Waqf board claims a particular piece of land and it goes to a tribunal or court, then we can say that the tribunal will take a call or the High Court can take a call. So we say that High Court judge should not be a Muslim or Hindu. We can't say that. High Court judge is High Court judge. In a similar way, if there is a dispute between two parties and one party, supposedly the Waqif is a Muslim and the land which is in dispute belongs to Hindu or other groups, the matter will come to the board. Do you think that the Waqf board which will decide on that matter should be fair or at least seem to be fair? So when the Waqf board is deciding on a matter which concerns different groups, then it is better that the Waqf board has a members from diverse background. However, what we have done is, in the Central Waqf Council, only 2 people are non-Muslims. Out of 22, only 2 are non-Muslims. And the other 2, maximum, that is in case if the minister, the chairman, is non-Muslim, then he can become the member. Chairman means one of the members. And the CEO, the joint secretary concerned of the ministry, if he is a non-Muslim, then he is there by virtue of being in the post. So it is not question of bringing outside people to manage or interfere into the Muslim affairs. It is a statutory body created by the government which will give a fair judgment while conducting a particular matter. So to say that non-Muslims are brought into the Waqf board, it is a failed argument. Secondly, the duty of Waqf board is not to run the affairs of the Awqaf, the Waqf property being created. So the board is not managing the Awqaf, the property. It is being managed by the Mutawalis. The board is only regulating that the Waqf property must be managed in a certain manner, which should be efficiently done, must be transparently handled, there must be full accountable. So it can be compared with, say, if you are running a trust. If you run a trust, you are the trustee. So if you are Hindu, the trustee is a Hindu for the purpose of the welfare of the Hindus, maybe for religious purpose, maybe for welfare purpose. But to govern the management of the trust, there is a charity commissioner, which is a government appointee. So charity commissioner cannot be asked to be a Muslim or a Hindu or a Christian, Jain or Parsi or Buddhist or Sikh. Charity commissioner can be anybody. So tomorrow if you go to the court, if you say that I am a Hindu, so the judge has to be Hindu, How can it be? So the basic problem is some of the people are not trying to understand the reality. They're just going on misleading the people, launching, kind of a campaign for creating a narrative to scare the Muslims that the government is trying to take away the masjids, the qabrastans, and then all other properties of the Muslims. It's very unfortunate. It has been debated so much in the parliament. And finally, a balanced act has been passed. I have received large numbers of Muslim communities, especially those who are belonging to poorer sections, those who are from the weaker sections, minorities within the Muslims, or you can say different sects within the Muslim community. They have welcomed it. It is only those people who are amassing lots of Waqf properties and misusing it for their personal gains. They are the people apparently inciting the people and telling the people to come to the street and protest. Now the problem what we've seen in West Bengal, the Chief Minister of West Bengal herself is inciting the people to protest. The law and order situation is within the ambit of the state government. Now she'll be in trouble because she has to manage the law and order.
And there are people who have lost their lives.
Very unfortunate. The Chief Minister of the state is inciting people to come out and protest and then leading to the tragic loss of lives. What can be more tragic than this?
But then, Mr. Rijiju, do you think that argument that some are giving from the opposition and otherwise also, that when it comes to Hindus, only Hindus manage their religious affairs. When it comes to Christians, only Christians manage their...
I again
Do you think this is a fallacious argument?
That is why I have said that if government says that you are going to dilute the management in, say, Jammu Masjid Committee, okay, if there is a Qabristan being managed by a committee, if government says that a non-Hindu should be put as the member of the committee, or any other religious matter, if government tries to put somebody outside to be part of the management committee, then you can term that as interference. So I have very categorically explained. The Waqf properties are managed by the Muslims only. It is the governing issue. It is an administrative issue. Waqf board is a statutory body. So that is why I gave you example of the charity commissioner. Charity commissioner governs the trust. Waqf board governs the awqaf. So it is same. There is nothing to be confused about.
Mr. Rijiju, you are saying that some people are doing propaganda for furthering their narrative, and want to sort of make the Muslims feel insecure. But then some people are also saying that BJP is also doing it for its own agenda.
Suppose the Waqf property in India are being managed in a much satisfactory manner, efficiently, with full accountability, efficiently, then why should even government try to make some efforts to enhance the management if it is being managed in a very satisfactory manner? Now you tell me, the Waqf properties in India are the largest in the world. I have stated this in the parliament. Many people keep saying that the Waqf properties are third largest. But it's a basic thing. How can you compare with the railway property? You travel in railway, I travel on rails, thousands of kilometers on the railway track. Is it a property used by the railways? Railways have made it for the utility of the people. Similar manner, the defense land are to defend the country. It's not for the military people to gain profits. So Waqf properties are not only largest in India, but largest in the world. Now, having the largest Waqf properties in the world and not even utilizing 5% of the worth of those properties for the welfare of the children, the destitute, the poor, the backward people amongst the Muslims, then do you think that government should just allow people to loot, misuse, and usurp all the rights of the other Muslim community? Government of India means government for every citizen. We have to think for every citizen of this country. So Waqf rule and the law has been in existence much before independence. 1913, the first act came, then 1920, 21, 30, then post-independence, first act was passed in 1954. Then why was this not been termed as unconstitutional? And then the Waqf amendment was brought subsequently many times, but main one in 1995, then subsequently in 2013. So the law is in existence which required certain improvement, and we have done exactly as it is required. And I had told in the Parliament also that whatever bill we had drafted initially, that had undergone tremendous change in the provisions. And that is, everybody is well aware of that. In the JPC, so many changes were made. Majority of the suggestions made by the JPC are being accepted. It is a few things which JPC did not have a unanimity. The majority of the members agreed on a certain point, and a minority of the group, they had attached their dissent note, and that is also attached with the main report. So that is a democratic process. But ultimately, if within the Muslim community, if majority of the needy people are benefiting it, then the whole nation should welcome.
But then why do you think there are plethora of plaints in the Supreme Court? Opposition parties have rushed to Supreme Court. The number of other bodies which have rushed to Supreme Court. Supreme Court is all set to listen to it in that, and you will have to defend the law in the Supreme Court also.
See, whatever will happen in the Supreme Court, the government will take a position. But I'm sure the Supreme Court will understand. Any law passed by the Parliament of India has to have its own sanctity, and the Supreme Court of India will intervene if they feel that any provision is ultra vires. If any provision directly violates the specific provisions of the Constitution, they can come out with judgment. But I'm very confident that Supreme Court will not venture into legislative process.
And you are confident that the law is sound as far as Constitution is concerned, and it is not unconstitutional as many people are saying?
Well, the definition of constitutionality of any provision will be decided by the Supreme Court. But what I'm saying is, any legislative process which has went through due process of legislation must be given its due sanctity, even by the Supreme Court, because we have to respect each other. If tomorrow the government starts giving comments and interferes into the judiciary thing, it won't be nice. So the separation of three organs are well defined, and the legislative process is a well settled process in India. Yes, there are instances where Supreme Court had interfered, and in fact they had certain provisions were struck down in the past. But I'm sure in this Waqf Amendment Bill, which has become an act now, it has seen absolutely the entire process of debates, discussions, consultations. I have not seen any other bill being scrutinized so much. We have received more than 1 crore representations. The JPC set for maximum numbers of time ever, and the Parliament had the longest ever debates. And in fact, we created the record in Rajya Sabha by sitting continuously for 17 hours and 2 minutes. we need to understand that these are the values which we create in the process of making a historic legislation, and we need to value that.
Mr. Rijiju, I'm glad that you actually bring in JPC here, because in the parliament and outside also, there was a criticism that when it came to the critical part, when the objections started to come in, you wound up the processes of JPC, and JPC was rushed into submitting a report, and that process could actually have continued for some more time. My question, Mr. Rijiju, is that whether through the JPC process or whether in the parliament, what was the rush to pass the bill? It could have been passed next month also, in the next session also. What was the rush?
Well, that is a very good question. We could have passed it straight away in the budget session itself. I mean, government had the option. We had a majority. We could have passed it straight away when we tabled the bill on the table on the floor of the House. But then we thought, let it go to JPC for better debate, better scrutiny. And the wisdom of the government is very, very clear and very open that this bill requires larger deliberation, wider consultation. Before tabling the bill, it has taken a wide consultation process, and we got hundreds of feedbacks, and we were prepared. Even in the budget session of last year, we were ready to pass it. But the government decided to send the bill to the Joint Parliamentary Committee. And Joint Parliamentary Committee was given a mandate that in the next session, in the winter session, the bill has to be reported back to the Parliament before the last day of the first week. That is a time bound given by the Parliament. Yet government had moved a resolution to extend it for another Parliament session, and finally it came to this budget session. In fact, we had given a long rope. Now to say that we had rushed in, what a bizarre argument, that despite extending the tenure much beyond what it ought to be, and yet government is being accused of rushing through it. How long JPC should take? Should it take years and years? JPCs are created to deliberate on a bill or a subject for a specific time. And we have extended beyond one more session. And then finally we debated for the longest ever debate in the Parliament. What more? I can't imagine any other situation or any other party which could have done better. We did maximum. We ran house till morning. I did not sleep for 4 nights consecutively because I had to be there till last, then sign the files for the next business of the Parliament House. And by the time I come back home, it is 5 o'clock in the morning. Then 7 o'clock, I'm ready again for the next morning session. We did so much for the sake of the nation. And people don't appreciate all these things because politics has eaten up the positive things, positive vibes, which should also be there while doing critical jobs. As a human being, we deserve appreciation, not only criticism.
Mr. Rijiju, I'm sure if you think that this is the longest ever parliamentary debate and the biggest ever scrutiny of a bill, the coming generations will certainly be grateful for that if it actually benefits the common Muslim people. But let me ask you, you are also the Parliamentary Affairs Minister of the country, and as the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, you also supervise the various other functions of the Parliament wherever your ministry is involved. Do you think, as the Parliamentary Affairs Minister also, that the entire processes of the Parliament in this bill, passing of this bill into an act, were completely satisfied, and that as a Parliamentary Affairs Minister also, you could not have done anything more with the bill?
I think as a parliamentary democracy, we require to give maximum time to the members and maximum possible extent for discussion and deliberation, and that we did it. As I told you about the timing, when I was replying to the debate after such a lengthy discussion, in fact, it is the opposition members who came to me and said, Minister, can you reply in a shorter format? Normally, I was expected to speak for 2 hours. After listening to other members for so long, I had to, for the sake of their satisfaction, reply to each point of every member of parliament. But then I cut down my reply, my speech was shortened, it was made more concise, and I just touched upon few of the critical points. And that is how I as a Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, I sacrificed my time and let the opposition speak more. So the opposition leaders spoke more than the minister. What can be more conducive for the opposition members, tell me? Have they ever seen in the past where the minister concerned or the Parliamentary Affairs Minister speaking less than the opposition members? Minister's reply is expected to be lengthier because he has to respond to all the members. But that didn't happen. Yet they want to criticize. Parliamentary democracy, we will accept all kinds of criticism, no problem. But we deserve credits. And more so for the benefits the Waqf Amendment Act is going to bring for the much needy people amongst the Muslims. Muslims in India are large. They are the largest amongst the minorities. And percentage-wise, Muslims are the poorest. I'm saying in percentage. So is it not very contradictory to say that largest work properties not in use for the poor? There's no hospital, there's no schools, there's no orphanage, there's no other training skill center being conducted using the work properties. So the work properties which are for religious purpose should be used for religious purpose. Any work properties created for pious and charitable reasons, for charitable purposes, must be used for that only. We should ensure that.
Mr. Rijiju, one more aspect of this entire controversy is that now the narrative that is being set around it, consequently protests, violence, and in some cases we have seen a tragic loss of life also. Do you think that better or elaborate communication from all sides concerned could have avoided this kind of situation? And do you think, the state governments probably could have played more active role, and the government of India also could have probably played more?
We have done what should be done. We have appealed to all the parties. I had repeatedly asked all the political parties to come together. If they have to oppose the party, they are in opposition parties. If they have to oppose as a political party, they can oppose. But misleading and inciting for the violence, that is not acceptable. They have to understand that we all are responsible people. As I said in the beginning, these opposition-ruled states, they have their responsibility of taking care of their states. The law and order is a state subject. And the Waqf boards are to be created by the state government. I'm not going to appoint the Waqf board members in West Bengal or Telangana or Tamil Nadu. It is the state government who will be appointing, who will be forming it. It will be their choice. The disputes are to be decided by the tribunals to be created with them. The deputy commissioners who are going to survey and measure and assess the properties are going to be their officers. The government of India will have no role whatsoever in deciding the composition and the conduct of the Waqf boards. It is totally at the disposal of the state government. I fail to understand that if you want to pretend not to understand, you can't pretend beyond understandable. You can't pretend to this extent. Everything is at their domain, and yet they are protesting against this particular act, which is already an act made by the Parliament of India.
Mr. Rijiju, I'll not take much of your time. I know you have an extremely busy schedule. My last question to you is that the Chief Minister of West Bengal says that she will not implement the law in her state. Does she have a choice? You are also the former law minister. That's why I ask you this question.
Does that mean that the Chief Minister of West Bengal doesn't believe in the Constitution of India? Sitting in a constitutional position and saying that the act passed by the Parliament will not be implemented, what kind of bizarre statement is that? Secondly, does Mamata Banerjee or anybody who says they will not implement, they don't care for the poor people? This is precisely because they treat the Muslims as mere vote bank. Now, if you treat a particular community as vote bank, means you are treating them as a commodity to be used for certain purpose. It will be a black day the moment it is clear that they will defy an act passed by the Parliament of India. Because we are guided by the Constitution of India. Anybody who says that they will not obey the act passed by the Parliament of India has to ask himself or herself that does he or she has any moral authority and constitutional right to occupy in that position and to hold the kitab, Samvidhan kitab, they keep displaying, Samvidhan Zindabad. Do they respect Dr. Babasaheb Bhimrao Ambedkar? Do they consider the Constitution book as a sacred document, a guiding book for us? What kind of message they want to send by making this kind of statement which cannot be accepted by a normal citizen of this country, a normal rule-abiding citizen of this country? Very unfortunate. But I sincerely hope that wisdom will prevail. These people understand that they are making grave mistakes by inciting violence, by criticizing to the point which are unfounded, and then making unconstitutional statement coming from people who are holding constitutional positions.
Mr. Rijiju, as always, thank you very much for joining NDTV. Thank you very much for taking time out of a very busy schedule.
My pleasure.
Thank you.